I'm using 550 paracord and I've tied an overhand loop at the end. I'm then passing a second loop through that first loop and using a nifty thrifty stick to go underneath this loop. Once it's passed through, you can pull tight and ratchet down on that bad boy, and then you can tie the rest of the ridgeline. Once you've cinched the knot tight, you can then leave your ridgeline loose and work on your knot at the other end. Now, I don't know the exact name of this knot, guys. Who cares? I think it's called a taut tarp hitch. Wrap your ridgeline around the back of the tree, wrap over it, then under it, and pull back on itself as hard as you can. This is where you need to keep the most amount of tension on that ridgeline. Then I pull the working end over the ridgeline and make a U shape. Pull the loose paracord back through this U and away from the tree, making sure everything is cinched down tight. I like to hold the knot so nothing slips. You then have a secondary loop, and at this point I'm going to make my quick release loop by pulling the remainder of the paracord away from the tree. Now it's time for the guitar test. Give your ridgeline a pluck, make sure it's nice and tight, and let's sort that secondary loop out by putting a stick there and pulling all the loose paracord back through. This means that it definitely won't slip. By the Prusik knot, pass your loop over your ridgeline with the tag end going through it, and then do this again. Cinch it down, but I like to do it slowly to make sure none of the paracord slips and also that the knot is all in line. Once you've done this, it kind of looks like a monkey's fist. Fist pump, yeah. And move your Prusik loop over to it. Pass this Prusik loop through the tie-out point on the tarp and create a hole. Push your stick toggle through, pull it all down, and then you've made yourself a sliding adjustable toggle. I like to tuck the knot through it as well, just for extra security. Now you can pull your Prusik knot to the sides to tighten and loosen the tension on the tarp.
My standing line, which is on the right side, and I pull the loop so that way the standing line is underneath the tail end, or my left, the left side. I take my tail end, go through the loop, go around underneath my standing end, and I go back into the loop. When I pull this tight, I end up with a nice loop like this, and this is the bowline, and I wrap it around an anchor like this stake right here. Take my tail end and I go through the bowline loop that I created earlier, and then I pull my tail end back towards my stake. And this gives me 3-to-1 mechanical advantage, which means that I don't need to put a whole lot of tension on this cord before it really cranks down the shelter. To tie this off, I go ahead and pinch this pivot point, I create a loop, and I take a bite from my tail end, and I go ahead and pull it tight up against my pivot point. And this is a slippery half hitch. Now if I need to adjust this, it's really easy to do. I could just go ahead and pull, that undoes the knot. And let's suppose that I wanted to push the door a little bit more. I go ahead and I can retighten, pinch that pivot point, create the loop, take the bite, pull the slip loop or the slippery half hitch up against that knot, and I'm all done. Now, I don't have enough cord to get back to my bowline loop. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a loop in this standing line here. I'm gonna create a slip loop. To create a slip loop, I make a loop and I take a bite from my tail end and I pull that bite back towards the stake. And now I have a slip loop. I go ahead and I take my tail end, go through the loop, and now this system should look pretty familiar. This slip loop is basically behaving the same way that that bowline loop did back there. I go ahead and intention this 3-to-1 mechanical advantage, pinch that pivot point, loop, take a bite, slippery half hitch to secure it. I'll also point out that I could go around both lines, doesn't really matter. Loop, take the bite, slip loop, and this here is the trucker's hitch. I've now shown you 3 different knots. I've shown the bowline.
The ridgeline is set up and secured just the way you want it. Now to attach the tarp to the ridgeline, form a small loop in the line. Insert the loop through the grommet at one end of the tarp. Take a small sturdy stick and slide it through that loop.